Hi scholars, happy Monday. Today we are going to continue reading our story about gorillas. So I want you to think to yourself, what is something that you learned all the way back on Friday about gorillas? If you remember, we read a chapter of the story about gorilla families. So think back to Friday. Is there anything that you remember specifically about gorilla families? Something that I remember from what I read in this story is that the leaders, the adult men of the gorilla pack or the troop, remember that we learned about, that acts as that gorilla family, is called a silverback gorilla. Can anyone remember why they are called a silverback gorilla? I remember that they said that the older the men get, the backs of their backs get, their fur becomes silver. So they're calling them silverback gorillas just because of how they look. And because that only happens with the adult males in the troop. So they're the silverbacks that lead that troop. So that was only one fact, one part of the real information that I read in this book last week that I remember was a really cool fact. So now that we're talking about facts and real information that we learned last week, we remember that facts and real information come from non-fiction texts. So we know that this book, a true book, Gorillas, is part of a non-fiction text. Now, something else we know about non-fiction texts is that there are text features in the book. So there are many different kinds of features in the book that tell us different parts about what we're going to read. So in the story about frogs that we read a couple weeks ago, we learned a text feature that was bold print. And bold print was a text feature that kind of stuck out some really important facts or main ideas in the story. So we're going to be looking at some other text features today and continue to look at them when we're reading the story Gorillas. So, now I'm looking at a text feature right here on this page. Does anyone remember what this text feature is called? If you said table of contents, you got it. The table of contents tells us the names of the chapters and what page they start on in the book. So, remember on Friday we read Gorilla Families, and I knew that I needed to turn to page 18 to talk about specific gorilla families. So remember, table of contents is a text feature that has the name of chapters and the pages that they start on. So I'm reading the table of contents, and like I said, I remember we had read Gorilla Families, started on page 18. Today I think I want to read to you guys a chapter titled The Biggest Primate. That starts on page 11. So I see The Biggest Primate. Go across to page 11. Okay, let me turn to that page so we can start reading. Ooh, now I see another text feature. Can anyone tell me what text feature you see on this page? Ooh, I see some silent straight verticals. Shout it out if you know it. The heading. The heading is at the top of the page, and it tells us the title of the chapter. So remember, I was going to the biggest primate, so I see that heading right there. We know that the heading is important because it tells us what we are going to be reading about on these pages. Okay, so I'm so excited to start learning about the biggest primate and who that might be. The biggest primate. Gorillas belong to a group of animals called mammals. Mice, cats, whales, and bats are also mammals. Scientists place gorillas in a group of mammals called primates. Monkeys are primates too. And so are humans. The gorilla is the largest of all the primates alive today. Scholars, let's stop and think, what is something that we just learned on that first page about gorillas? Something that I noticed we learned is that gorillas are mammals, and so are cats, bats, and even us humans. Gorillas are also members of a group called the Great Apes. Chimpanzees, orangutans, and bonobos are great apes too. The great apes are all large primates that have no tails. Like most primates, gorillas are curious and smart. Ooh. Their eyes are close together in the front of their heads so they can tell whether objects are nearby or far away. So we see some of those primates that they just listed that are part of the great apes. So we see a chimpanzee and an orangutan, which they were also listed as part of that group with gorillas as the big apes, or the great apes. Whoops, my bad. Scholars, now, who can tell me, are these pictures drawn by someone? Did someone color these pictures? Say, no way, no way. Those pictures are photographs. They're taken by real people and show these animals in the wild. So, scholars, what did we use to help us learn about gorillas today? How did they help us learn more about gorillas? What did we use in this story about gorillas today? What were those things called? If you're having trouble remembering what I'm talking about, let's think about some things that we pointed out in the book. We had the table of contents, the heading, some photographs. We were talking about text features, and text features are important because they give us information and make it easier to find information in a book. And the text feature that we used and focused on today was the table of contents and headings. What information did we read about gorillas today? We learned so much juicy information. I know all of you have some great things to share. Something that I learned was that gorillas are part of the great apes. And not only gorillas are great apes, but so are chimpanzees, orangutans, and bonobos. I've actually never seen a bonobo, so Miss Weed's gonna look that up later and figure out what it is. Maybe you can share some facts that you learned from this story today with someone in your family. and tell them all of those cool things you learned about gorillas. All right, scholars, I can't wait to read our last part of the story about gorillas tomorrow, and I look forward to all of you being there and sharing some cool information that you learned in the story. Bye!